Welcome back, you beautiful people, here to the Misfits. And we're back for the USC Pregame Show alongside Eric Lambkins, otherwise known as Elam, and he's got a new name for you today. But I'm Jude Reynolds-Ocanius, and we're back. Week 8, USC is back in action after their second bye week of the regular season. They're going to take on Nebraska, 6-2 Nebraska, I should say, on the road, 4:30 p.m. tomorrow. And we got you covered with everything leading up to kickoff. So it is obviously Halloween. So, me and Elam had to come in with our costumes. So, Elam, for the uneducated, I should say, what is your not was your uniform? What is your costume?
You know what? For the uninitiated, he wears a mask so the charge won't grab on the rooftop with a large stone slab. I am the unequivocal, the gazillionaire, all caps, MF Doom. Well, actually, you can call me EF Lamb, but shout out, long live Doom. That's the costume for today.
I love it. The mask is it's fire on itself. But I'm Toon Squad. I'm running this with a few of my friends here at college, so having a good little time. I'm pretty much ready to go hoop. Look at me. I got the headband. I got the wristband. We're ready to hoop. So anytime I need to get in action, I'm ready. But we're ready to talk some USC football today is what we're ready to do. And, as we do on every show, we got to talk about what happened on this date. So I'm going to throw it over to Elam, November 1st. What happened on this day in USC football history?
You know what's crazy? On this day, November 1st, 2014, Cody Kessler, yes, that Cody Kessler, went 21 of 32 for 400 yards and threw 5 touchdowns. Now, this game right here got both Nelson Aguilar and Juju Smith-Schuster drafted. Nelson Aguilar caught 8 catches for 220 yards. Yes, you heard me correctly. 8 for 220 and 1 touchdown. And Juju Smith-Schuster caught 6 passes for 74 yards and 3 touchdowns. So on November 1st, 2014, the 6-3 USC Trojans demolished the 2-7 Washington State Cougars 44-17.
Yeah, Cody, they used to be. I went to a few of those games, and I was hopeful for them. Obviously, Juju, he's a Super Bowl champ, so they've sort of cut a name out for themselves. Nelson Aguilar had his drop problems, but monster performances nonetheless. And that moves me forward to, we got to stay on brand with the Halloween theme. We're going to have fun here on the USC Pregame Show presented by the Misfits. So, Eric, I have to ask you, who is the scariest USC player you have seen line up on the gridiron?
Now, listen, when you mention O.J. Simpson, Ronnie Lott, Reggie Bush, those are some pretty scary guys. You can even throw Keyshawn Johnson in that mix. But for me, everybody knows that I am a defensive-minded guy. I'm a defensive guy at heart. For me, it's a no-brainer. It is the 2002 All-American, consensus All-American, Troy Polamalu. Now,
Yeah.
I remember Troy Polamalu popping up on my radar. He was a gunner on special teams. A guy called fair catch, and Troy Polamalu still laid him out. But I digress. We all know what happened. Troy gets drafted by the Pittsburgh Steelers and only becomes a Hall of Famer. So for me, the scariest player that I have ever seen is Troy Polamalu.
Yeah, I was too young to remember the glory days of USC having a really good defense. I'm now stuck with Jeremiah Love running for 300 or 228 yards. So please bring back those glory days if you can, USC. But I think for me, and a player that I do remember watching, I'm not going to go with the Reggie Bush. I'm going to go with Dory Jackson. This dude was explosive. He was fun to watch, but he was scary because every time a team punted or kicked to him, they made a mistake. That was a mistake starting right there. The fact that he even touched the ball, he was a monster when it came to punt returns, kick returns. He was a 2016 Pac-12 Defensive Player of the Year. He could pretty much do it all. You could line him up at receiver and the slot on the outside. You can line him up at DB. He's going to produce. And it's kind of sad because I did think at the next level we were going to get that. He was truly the Travis Hunter before the Travis Hunter. So unfortunately, it didn't pan out in the NFL as well as he probably would have liked. But you talk about scary players. That was certainly one scary player. So now let's move towards this game. USC playing the Nebraska Cornhuskers this week on the road. This is a rematch from last year, but Nebraska was at the Coliseum, so they're going to travel to Memorial Stadium. And for those who don't know, the Cornhuskers, they're 7th in the Big Ten right now. They're 6-2, 3-2 in conference play. They're 2-1 at home versus the conference, I should say. And actually, they were in the news this week because their head coach, Matt Rule, signed an extension, a 2-year extension to keep him through 2032. And to be fair, Matt Rule has turned around a program that was pretty bad. Before he was signed in, I believe, 2022 to be the head coach, they had 5 consecutive losing seasons. So he's been able to turn it around. He's in his 3rd season, and they went to their first bowl game last year since 2016. So clearly there is some tide changing down there in Nebraska. But some guys to point out before we go further, I think the big name is Dylan Raiola, Elam. This guy
talking about the second-hand Patrick Mahomes.
The second-hand Patrick Mahomes, or should I say the Walmart Patrick Mahomes? I don't.
Gotcha.
But the sophomore quarterback, like, he was highly touted. He was a 5-star, and he's had a solid year. He's 1,900 passing yards, 17 touchdowns, 6 interceptions is the key. I want to make note, and all those interceptions have come in the last 5 games. So he, as much as he has this kind of off-script ability, like a Patrick Mahomes, like we've seen with Caleb Williams, he does tend to get a little too sporadic and make throws that you probably don't want to see a sophomore quarterback make. A freshman quarterback, understandable, the game, used to it. But you're now in your sophomore year. There's some things you have to understand, being safe with the ball. Look, we saw that with Jada Maava. He still has a few of those issues too. So really, protection of the ball has kind of been hit or miss with a guy like Dylan Raiola. But like I mentioned, he does have that off-script ability at times where it's like, okay, wow, he can really do something when the play breaks out. He can make a play happen. But I got to point to another guy, and that's Emmett Johnson. We saw what Jeremiah Love and the Notre Dame Fighting Irish did to this USC defense just 2 weeks ago, right? They ran for 306 total yards on the ground. And Emmett Johnson is another guy you got to circle and say, you got to stop him. He's having a career year, 837 rushing yards, 146 attempts. All of those are career highs. He has 4+ 100-yard games. I really do believe the key is, if you want to stop this offense, you got to stop Johnson. And you know what? Raiola, as long as he is talented, but force him into uncomfortable situations. And then lastly, this defense, it's a hit or miss. I think their pass defense is stronger than their rush defense. They've been able to pretty much contain a lot of the teams they've seen in the Big Ten and out of conference. They rank 2nd in the total conference and passing yards allowed per game. But the one team that did give them troubles was Maryland and Malik Washington. They went for 249 passing yards, a touchdown, 0 interceptions. So the teams that play clean ball tend to have more success in the passing game. So just something to keep out of note. Eric, kind of what have you made of this Nebraska team and Dylan Raiola?
You know what? I think the strength of this Cornhusker team literally is their pass defense. Now, there is a former Trojan in that secondary, Sierra Wright.
Yeah.
I mean, I know him because that's my fraternity brother, but Sierra can play, and that secondary is to be paid attention to. So do I think that they're capable of stopping Makai Lemon and Jacoby Lane? Absolutely not. Yeah. But I think that is the strength of their defense. Everything that you aforementioned about Matt Rule is to be noted. It's a matter of whether or not the USC Trojans are able to run the ball against Nebraska, but we'll get to that a little bit later. But the strength of this Cornhusker team definitely is their pass defense. If they're given if they're afforded the opportunity to just pin their ears back and rush the passer, they have some pass rushers that can do damage. But like I said, pass against his defense if you want to. You're playing into the strength of the Nebraska defense.
Yeah, and to be fair, Matt Rule and Lincoln Riley have some history going back to their Big 12 days. Lincoln Riley is actually 5-1 all time versus Matt Rule. So also picked up a win last year with USC. So talking about Lincoln Riley, I think it's becoming a reoccurring theme on this show. But can he exercise these road demons? This has kind of been the point of contention when you look at a team like USC football, where, look, there's no doubt the talent is there. Offense is one of the best in the country. And obviously there have been some defensive problems, but it seems to be every season when we get to these road games, that's where the issues begin, right? They were able to handle Michigan pretty handedly, which, by the way, Michigan being ahead of USC in the AP poll, is kind of absurd since USC beat them. But I digress. So I ask you, can this finally potentially be the day for Lincoln Riley to exercise those road demons? And what does he need to do, Eric, to be able to do it?
Now it's a matter of how are you defining exercising the road demons? Do I think Lincoln Riley is going to magically become this efficient and great clock manager? Absolutely not. Do I think that Lincoln Riley is going to all of a sudden become less cute with his play calling? Absolutely not. But do I think Lincoln Riley will do just enough to win the game? Absolutely. Now, in order for Lincoln Riley to exercise these road demons, he's got to stick with the run game. Now, the caveat is you now have no Eli Sanders, who's out for the year. You have no Wayman Jordan, who's going to miss the next few weeks with an ankle injury. So you're going to have to heavily rely on King Miller and Brian Jackson. Now, will Lincoln Riley do that? That remains to be seen. But this is Big Ten football. And in order to win in the Big Ten, you have to run the ball.
You got to run the ball. And that was something that I think me and you both can agree on. USC didn't do enough of. And on, Saturday, or in the extent in the situations that they should have. I mean, there was multiple times where I think it comes down to what you said earlier, getting cute, right? We saw Lincoln Riley in that Notre Dame game. And look, I'll wear it on my chest, right? I picked USC, they lost, but it felt like a game USC could have won if they had just, made a play here or there. And obviously that has been the case for USC in the past, but it really was cute plays. It's like, why are we doing a jet sweep with a receiver and then having him throw in the rain? Like you look at those plays and you say that's not the type of football that we're running here. We want hard mouth football, and especially against a Nebraska team that has given up 474 total yards on the ground in just the past 3 games with 6 rushing touchdowns. Look, King Miller, I think it's still an adjustment for him. He had a great game against Michigan. There's obviously the turn to be like, okay, now you got to go on the road. Now you're that tailback one. So there was an adjustment period, but this is a chance to get that confidence back, especially on the road. But I agree. It comes down to the clock management, but really the play calling. And the one thing that kind of pissed me off was you have a guy like Makai Lemon, and I think USC got blessed in the first half of that Notre Dame game with not having weather. And the fact that Makai Lemon was targeted less than 10 times, right? He only had 4 receptions in that total game. That's your playmaker, right? You want to get the ball to your playmaker. This is college football. Playmakers rule the game. They are game changers. And the fact that Lincoln Riley didn't do that is disappointing. And it continues to be a theme. So can he exercise those demons in one game? Probably not. It's going to take some, proving and credibility over some road games. But they only got 2 left on the schedule. It's Nebraska, and then later this month is Oregon. So 2 tough tasks regardless. But as we move forward, like to always do this one, player/matchup to watch. Eric, who is it?
You know what? I got to go with the king. I'm down with him, King Miller. Now, there's going to be a ton of pressure placed on the lap of King Miller. However, we know that in practice and in games, when given the opportunity, King Miller is bound to break one big run. So personally, I think this game is going to be the King Miller coming out party. I predict King Miller is going to have 150, 175 yards rushing.
Wow, that's a bold prediction right there, but we love it. That's what we do on this show. And, I'm going to continue on the offensive end because, we haven't really talked about him too much, and that's Jaden Mayava. I think at the end of the day, he's played good, and he's definitely been one of the best passers in the Big Ten, but I go back to that game and there was some sloppiness. I mean, the interception he threw behind Jacoby Lane, like there's as much as it's, one play doesn't define a game, sure, there's momentum swings, right? And I know it was in the rain against Notre Dame, so obviously it was a little tougher, and he's not a player typically used to that type of weather. But I really need to see Jaden Mayava have that kind of explosive game. We've kind of been waiting for it. We didn't really see it against Michigan because the run game was a lot better. But yeah, I think Jaden Mayava, this is a chance to prove and also just help Lincoln Riley's case of, look, we can win on the road. So we'll wrap it up here with, obviously, got to give our predictions, Elam. We both have 1 loss on the season. I got the Notre Dame game wrong. You got the Michigan game wrong. So let's both bounce back here. Who do you got?
You know what? I honestly think this is the get back game or get right game for USC. Do like King Miller being able to, like I said, run wild. I think Jaden Mayava is going to have a bounce back game, but I think even more so, honestly, Jacoby Lane has been too quiet for too long. I think Jacoby Lane is getting ready to go absolutely ham, especially if it's good weather. So I have USC beating the Nebraska Cornhuskers. What numbers do I hear in my head? Let's go 38-27.
38 so a double-digit victory. I think it's going to be a little closer. I think on the road, USC, I still, like I said, they still have problems when it even comes to pre-snap penalties and stuff like that. I'm going to go 37-31 USC wins. I do think this is going to be a high-scoring game. As much as I want to believe this defense is going to turn a corner, it's going to be tough to do in 2 weeks. I mean, given an extra week, sure, maybe you're a little more rested, but this defense clearly has some gashes in the linebacker situation and also up front. And Emmett Johnson, he's been one of the better running backs in the Big Ten. He's going to be a tough stop. So 37-31, that's how I see it. I think we both have USC this week to hopefully bounce back and get back right, as they are number 23. So they did move into the AP poll. They beat the bye week, so they were able to move into the AP poll. But it's been a pleasure. And happy Halloween to all of y'all. Happy Halloween to all of y'all. But he's been Elam. I've been Jude Reynolds O'Connor. We will see you next week.
Peace.